What's up, everybody? All right, I am using this thing called OBS for the first time to be able to do my live streaming here. It actually looks like it's working. This is pretty cool. All right, let me see here if I can get my... I made a funky... what's called thumbnail here. All right. It looks like I'm not going to be able to figure it out this time, which is fine. Also, to be able to see everybody, guys, if you are here and you're attending live, do me a favor, because this is the first time I've used OBS. Just say anything in the chat, because I've got top chat over here, but I want to make sure that it's actually working. So if anybody can literally say anything into the chat, it would help me out just to be able to know that that thing is working. But in the meanwhile, guys, it's great to be able to see you. I'm playing around with some new settings and all here in terms of tech. One thing that I want to start doing is to be able to do some things like interviews, or I'm even considering doing just a few kind of like live one-on-one sessions, but obviously it would be live, it would be permanently recorded and this kind of stuff. So if it's something that you'd be interested in, that you'd be willing to be on camera to be able to talk about your unique case or ask for advice in these things, definitely, you can go ahead and comment down here actually below. This video will not only be on Patreon, because this is something that is not academic advice. This is basically a challenge that I want to have for everybody. Here coming up starting on September 1st, which is this upcoming Wednesday. I'm almost positive, actually, upcoming Wednesday. Let me take a look. Oh, no, sorry, not this Wednesday, the following Wednesday, right? So September 1st is where we're going to kick off. So let's go ahead and get started here. I know that today is Saturday night, so a whole bunch of people won't be able to come, but I put up a poll, guys, and in the poll I was talking about how due to COVID, due to, for me, chronic stress, I can tell you guys about that. But regardless of the source, a lot of people, myself included, we've gained a significant amount of body fat since last year, beginning of last year. Last year was something that really nobody could have anticipated. A lot of people have had a lot of trauma over the past year. I always tell people this is the first time in history, really, that we've had, or not in history, in our history, right, folks that are alive right now, have had a truly global, everybody in the world, exact same time, almost nobody independent of it, trauma happening at the same time. And usually when somebody, like let's say in your friend group, somebody, God forbid, a family member gets sick, everybody rallies around that person and that crisis is done. And then maybe you have a problem, right? Maybe you're almost failing out of grad school or you're clinically depressed. Well, okay, that friend who you helped, they can rally around you. So it's almost like crop rotation, right? But essentially what's happened over the past year is that there's like no crop rotation, right? It was everybody going through everything at the exact same time. So because of that, unless you're lucky enough, I'm very lucky in this regard to be able to have a very tight-knit family, to be able to have folks to be able to talk through, especially during the first half of this year. Was very lucky late in the year in November to meet Daria, and so ever since then or whatever, things have been amazing in terms of having that romantic relational support as well. But a lot of people went through the entire pandemic without anybody. I have a lot of friends like that, and it's been exceptionally hard for them, and I totally get that. So in any case, regardless of the reason, so many people have gained, like I said, quite a significant amount of weight. And this is something where definitely, like for me, I'm up over 40 pounds. I would say probably like 45 to 48 pounds, which is a huge amount of weight. I always joke around, I say that's like 50% of a Daria. So it makes sense that I would want to do something about that. For me personally, I struggled with weight my entire life. I've always said that it's like my number one challenge. Maybe you're like me, and maybe when you were younger, so like when I was young, I got like viciously bullied for being overweight. From when I moved to the house where my parents are now, where they're living now, when I was, like 10 or something like that. All the way through, my childhood, right? I was always bullied for being overweight. And of course, when that happens, you tend to run to food, right? And you end up getting progressively bigger. And unless, your family is a really good model for you to be able to lose that body fat, if the family is kind of not very active. For my family was always really focused on school, really focused on work and these things. And so because of that, I didn't really have strong models in terms of folks who were very close to me going out and being very active, going for hikes, playing sports, going to the park on the weekends and so forth. I just didn't have it. And so naturally, this is something that I had to really explore later in my own life in terms of actually getting a grip on my weight. But being viciously bullied really as a kid for my weight, it was something where that really instills something in you. And it's something that as an adult, there's certain parts of yourself that you end up just embracing over time. And that's certainly a part of myself that I've embraced, that food to me is like a drug, right? We can talk sometime, if you'd like, about the biomechanics of drugs, like the neurological workings behind drug addiction. And I can tell you that really the mechanisms are almost identical for certain kinds of foods, refined foods, processed sugars, and so forth. We can definitely talk about that sometime if you would like. But in any case, what happens, like for me, I barely drink, like barely. A big reason for that is caloric, right? So barely drink. At the same time, I don't like anything that makes me not present, right? I'm not a fan of that stuff. And don't do drugs, right? But I eat. That's my thing, right? And other people probably have the exact same situation. So you guys know me. I'm always honest with y'all. So that's what I would say. There's a great saying, which is that the difficult with things like being overweight or obese is that you wear your addiction on the outside. Other people wear their addictions on the inside, right? And so because your addiction is on the outside, a lot of people will be like, this person is very not disciplined and this kind of stuff. And I can tell you that for a large part of my life, I wasn't disciplined. But I can also tell you from personal experience, just like with last year, for example, that essentially, just like spinning plates, my discipline was completely into one thing, and this last year was building Publication Academy. Very rarely in life do you kind of find something that is truly such a deep passion work-wise that you not only want to explore it, but you want to dominate at it. I'm somebody who, I'm definitely a perfectionist. I don't like to be late for anything. Again, everything's got to be like on time, and as they say, just so. That's me, right? Over time, have I become a lot more flexible? For sure. But really where that flexibility has come from is being very forgiving towards myself and learning relaxation and mindfulness techniques to be able to chill myself out realistically, right? My religiosity has really increased because of that. So my faith, I'm a Christian, really helps me out a ton in that regard, being able to stay very present and much more at peace than I used to when I was way more stressed than I am right now. In any case, last year, like I said, I was so prepossessed with building Publication Academy. I worked for about 9 months. I took 0 days off in 9 months. No weekends, was working past midnight most nights, was, waking up in the morning, and because of the pandemic, gym was closed. I wasn't going to the gym. I was, and when I did go for runs and these things, I was burning 300 to 500 calories versus before when I was going to the gym, I was easily burning, during the day, easily burning 1,000 calories. Easy. In terms of active exercise. We're going to talk about the 4 main ways the calories are burned in a few minutes. But because of that, before I actually hit the pandemic with everybody else, right, I was the most physically fit I've been in my life. I was 173 pounds, and for me, I'm 5'10", 173. I was at 12 or 13% body fat, could start to see the abs. It was great, right? Most fit I've been in my entire life. I mean, I could run, easily could run maybe like a 10K every day, run 6 miles or so, every single day without a problem, and was just in phenomenal shape. And all of a sudden, I was told, because I, would do my body scans and all, that my body fat essentially wasn't burning as fast as my muscle. So I was burning muscle. That wasn't good. So I need to be eating more, right? And I was already having a ton of protein, right? So my macros were in order, but I was just not eating enough. And so essentially what I did was that I made some modifications to my diet, which enabled me to be able to not burn that muscle, and much more slowly, maybe half pound a week, be losing body fat, to be able to get down to about, the 10 to 11% mark, which is when you can really start to see some cuts in terms of your abs. And I never done that before, so I thought, wow, that's pretty sweet. What a great idea. I was so motivated, and then the pandemic hit, and like I said, I couldn't work out as much, but the thing is that my caloric load was higher than it was before. It was still high enough that if I was burning, let's say, 1,000 calories at the gym every day, and of course you've got other things like your BMR, we're going to talk about all this stuff today, right? Other ways that your body burns calories outside of, intentional physical exercise, like intentional active exercise. Because I kind of, fell off on that, what ended up in terms of not being able to do it forcibly, what ended up happening was that I started spending significantly more time in a chair, sitting down all day, working my butt off. I spent a significantly smaller amount of time working out, and I was eating more. And so, shocker, I started to progressively gain weight. Because I was so busy, which is no excuse. Frankly, it's an alibi, a lie that I tell myself. I stopped weighing in, and insidiously, as they say, my weight started to creep up. The more stressed out I got because of building Publication Academy for you guys, what ended up happening was that, because it's something that I decided I wanted it to exist. Essentially what I said to myself is, if I live to be 100 years old, which I will not, I've stressed my body out way too much for any longevity, right? But if I live to be 100 years old, right, that is 1% of my life. Am I willing to give up 1% of my life to be able to build this thing? And I decided yes. Right? And the reason I wanted to build it is because I didn't have anything like that accessible to me. And looking at the competitive market analysis, nobody else has ever built anything even closely resembling that. We're 600% larger than the next largest competitor. There's no competition, right? And even if somebody wanted to compete, it would take years, and the amount it would take of investment is astronomical. So because of that, it made sense for me to be able to spend quite a bit of money and all of my time doing that one thing. But unfortunately, because of all these factors combined, also a forced lack of socialization outside of things like Zoom, outside of things. I've never been a video game guy in my adult life, but I started playing Call of Duty Warzone, which I absolutely suck at. But, a few nights a week, I would play that with buddies of mine from church, which was a lot of fun. We always joke around and say that, how unfortunate is it that we say God more in terms of saying, God damn it, right? In terms of playing the game. I suck at the gulag. If anybody knows what Call of Duty is, I'm real bad. So if anybody ever wants to play with me, you can let me know, and I'll absolutely make sure that your team loses, because that's how bad I am. But maybe I'll just start. Emerson, our amazing summer intern, really wants me to get into Twitch streaming. If anybody thinks I should get into Twitch streaming, you can go ahead and let me know. That would be maybe fun. I'd have to figure that whole thing out as well. I feel so old insofar as not knowing, how some of these technologies work. I'm not a Snapchat guy. I'm not on TikTok. I'm old enough that, you look at an analog clock and that's the closest freaking TikTok, that I'm familiar with. But anyway, I started doing that, but that was, again, a lot of sitting, that kind of socializing. I always say that it's like sucralose, right? Something like in the US, like Sweetenlow or Splenda, stevia. The idea is that it looks like sugar and it tastes like sugar. That ain't sugar, right? And so long story short, I ended up gaining a very significant amount of weight. And then January 5th of this year, Publication Academy launched. And January 7th, I started to have very severe symptoms, physical manifestation of chronic pain. This is something that I first had when I was running my last company, which was sold back in 2017. And it's called a TMS. It's tension myositis syndrome. And essentially, it's like a somatoform disorder. So there's no structural damage to your body. For me, it manifests in my legs, right? Specifically the outside of my quadriceps, like my IT band type area, and then also in my forearms. Those are the two areas, right? It's caused by mild oxygen deprivation, which people usually wouldn't know. It's a result of chronic stress. And what ends up happening is that basically the body is so deeply burnt out that what happens is that there are parts of the brain that maybe you're familiar with and maybe you're not. So there's part of the brain called the amygdala. The amygdala is Greek for almond, right? Because it looks like a little almond. There's two of them, one each side of your diencephalon in there, in your limbic system. And what ends up happening is, that's not the diencephalon. What am I talking about? Anyway, limbic system, right? But what ends up happening is these parts of the brain have to do with a lot of things, in particular, generation of emotion, right? Emotional intensity. And so what happens is that those parts of the brain trigger the fight or flight system, right? And this is, maybe I'll make a separate video on my chronic pain and these things, because I think some people will go through this at some point in their life, particularly in academia, if they have chronic stress issues. And oftentimes people are really scared because they don't know what they're going through. I had been through this once before. The only way that I solved it was I sold my company, moved to Israel, prayed like crazy for 4 months, got into shape, dropped about 30 pounds, and all of a sudden I felt phenomenal, right? That is something that I have the luxury of doing. Most people don't have the luxury of doing that. So, what are we going to do in that situation? I don't have the luxury of doing that now. I have a lot of responsibilities now. I can't just move to another country, not work, read the Bible. I'd love to do that. Doing nothing but that for 4 months and then kind of reset. I can't do that. And so because of that, you got to find out some alternative way to be able to do it. I'm very lucky that between January until about April, I was basically, I couldn't do anything. I went to the gym, I think, like 3 times the whole time, and it was a horrific experience. The amount of pain was unbelievable. On a SUD scale, which is subjective units of distress, between 1 to 10, I was about a 9 in January. Couldn't breathe at all. Couldn't breathe. Begged, the family to take me to the hospital and these things so I could get morphine just because it was that intense. It was truly horrific. And luckily, over time, things got better. I was very, very lucky that, during that experience, I had an amazing family to be able to look out for me. I have an amazing girlfriend who stuck that thing out with me. We hadn't been dating that long at that stage. The idea that anybody would stick through it in a new relationship with somebody is still something that I feel incredibly blessed by. Like, that's amazing to me. It's one of the many reasons why I love Dari very much. Is because she stuck with me during that time when, it was really bad. Honestly, guys. It was easily one of the top 10 worst things that's ever happened to me. The pain now, I still have it every day. I would say it fluctuates between a 1 and a 2, which is amazing. But I still feel it. I feel it when I go to the gym. I feel it when I go for walks. I feel it anytime that I get stressed out about anything. It flares up. It's extremely painful. I can feel it from the right side of my eye as well as the right side of my head. I can feel it all the way down, and then I feel on the right side of my leg. That's basically where it stays. And when it really flares up, I feel it on the left side and in both of my arms. Right, and this is basically just chronic fight or flight, and it goes to the anterior cingulate, which is part of the brain that is involved with attention, and basically the more attention you pay to it, the more the amygdala and the ACC loop, right? And so basically it perceives a lot of pain, and then the pain goes back and keeps triggering fight or flight, but there's no way you can fix it because there's nothing to be fixed. It feels like you have physical pain, and yes, it's a real thing. The pain is real in your brain and the signals are getting sent, but there is no structural cause of the pain. This is why it's very similar to a somatoform disorder. But it's called TMS, so tension myositis syndrome. If anybody is ever interested in learning more about that, this guy Howard Schechter has a freaking phenomenal book about it. Dari and I call it the Big Book. We love the Big Book. The Big Book is amazing. So definitely, if anybody's interested in learning more about that, you can comment below, okay? And I'll walk you through the resource that I think is most useful on that, okay? So, because of that, I couldn't exercise at all. Then I moved to Odessa for a month, and you guys remember that. I did a whole bunch of videos, ton of videos when I was there, and the pain was easily like a 5 to 7 every day, so that was brutal. And then I moved back, and the pain got a little bit better. Then I went to the Bahamas, and the pain flared like crazy. I came back and went to Mexico. Luckily, the pain was better by then. Finally, I'm at the point now where I can basically go to the gym with a mild amount of pain on a daily basis. I can go for walks with a minimal amount of pain. And this has basically made it so that now, finally, I can get into losing fat. And I don't say losing weight because really what we want to do is to lose body fat. So in any case, like I said, I've gained a very significant amount of weight. A significant amount of body fat specifically. People are very generous and they say, like, you don't look like you've lost any weight, or, you look just as good as before, which is awesome. But it's something where you guys know as well as I do that when your pants don't fit anymore, when your clothes don't fit anymore, when you have to buy a whole new freaking wardrobe. I bought a whole new wardrobe, right? And then after that, right, like, I still can't fit into stuff now. Like, I've grown through the new wardrobe. That's really bad, right? And, it starts to impact you. It's funny because I'm a person with very high self-esteem. Ironically, this doesn't impact my self-esteem, but it definitely is something that it impacts my sense of self-efficacy. Self-efficacy, if you guys don't know what that it is, it's basically the belief that you can accomplish something, right? A key task for people in their 20s. I run a men's group, small group, every single Tuesday. It's part of this Delta ministry that I started with my buddy Emo about 1.5 years ago. And one thing I always teach the guys is that it is a critical task to learn how to conquer yourself, especially in your 20s. You have to learn how to be able to conquer yourself. And a key part of conquering yourself is basically saying, how am I going to take care of some of these things that take people down? How am I going to take care of my relationship with alcohol, my relationship with cigarettes, my relationship with illicit drugs or with pot? How am I going to handle things like food and other kinds of behavioral addictions, right, that are kind of out there? Porn addiction, for example, sex addiction. I know a lot of people who struggle with those kinds of issues. And let me tell you, it's brutal, right? I mean, it's really easy to get addicted to things in life, even if it's something like getting addicted to being on your phone, being addicted to posting on Instagram, me maybe being addicted to making videos for the channel, right? Whatever it happens to be, right? But there's all sorts of things you can get addicted to in this life and in this world, and biochemically, there's similar routes in the brain, right, that these sorts of addictions end up manifesting in, right? So in any case, what my goal is for all of us, beginning on anybody who's watching this video, if you want to participate, beginning Wednesday, September 1st until the end of September, right? So the final day when people will weigh in is going to be, so the first, it will be the 29th, right? So one day before the last day of September, right? So that's going to give us 4 weeks, right? We're going to have a weight loss challenge. Right. And obviously, I would love it if people had access to be able to tell me what like the body fat loss is, right? Because obviously, guys, the best way to be able to do this would be to say, what is everybody's starting weight? What is everybody's starting muscle mass and body fat percentage? And then to be able to track it and say, what is it after the fact? Because this way, this would control for things, right? But I know for a fact that not everybody has access to that. And because of it, we're just going to do total number of pounds lost, right? What I will do, though, is that if anybody is either, has more muscle on them or they're already kind of like considerably slimmer, right? I will consider, right, also doing a like a second prize as well, right? Which will also be both the first prize and if I do kind of a second version of the prize, right? So it won't be first and second place. It'll basically be, if the body composition is significantly different and you tell me about that, right? I will easily, and happily, because this is all about us doing this together. This isn't about us trying to beat the hell out of each other, right? On these things. The goal is for us to be able to try to drop that body fat together, okay? And what's going to happen is that we will check in on the community, either via live stream or on the community tab on Wednesdays at, I'm going to say 7 or 8 p.m. Eastern time, probably closer to 7 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesdays during that month. So it would be the 1st to the 8th, the 15th, the 22nd and the 29th. The 22nd is a day that I should be able to do, guys. If not, it's because Daria and I are going to be in Spain for that time, which will be a lot of fun. But it's something where guys, my jet lag gets so bad, like I can't do anything, like legit. It really destroys me. And if I were to do 7 p.m., let's say, that would be either midnight or 1 a.m. over there, which the likelihood I would do is pretty low. So what I may do is make like a pre-recorded video or something and post it on the channel for you guys. So there's two ways, guys, that you can kind of enter the weight loss challenge, right? The first one is if you're comfortable with kind of things being public for yourself, you can go ahead and in the comments below, right, you can basically give your starting weight as well as kind of what your game plan is, right, or a little bit about your journey, because all of us are in this thing together. There's no shame, there's no guilt, there's no any of these sorts of things. Okay, but if you're not comfortable doing that, that's okay. Just send me an email, right? So my personal email is drphoenixsingh@gmail.com. Okay, I don't know if I can put it over here or not, but it's literally drphoenixsingh@gmail.com, right? There we go. So drphoenixsingh@gmail.com, okay? And that's what we're going to do. Okay, so drphoenixsingh@gmail.com, or you can send me an email there, and you can literally just, once a week, like your title can say, like, starting weight, right, and then just put the number, or, week 1 check-in, give me the number, right, and this kind of stuff. And this way, you guys will be accountable to me. I obviously am always a huge cheerleader for you guys. Like I said, the first day of September is when we're going to kick this thing off. How do I lose weight? In my life, I have lost easily over 130 pounds over the years, right? In terms of going up, going down, I'm a yo-yo guy. I would love to say that that's not the case, but historically it is. But luckily I know what I'm doing now, and this is what works for my body. Every person's body is different. I highly recommend seeing a nutritionist. I highly recommend checking your food allergies. I highly recommend checking the health of your microbiome. And I highly recommend getting a personal trainer. Obviously, that can be really hard if you can't afford those services. I get it. But there's so many YouTube videos you guys can watch. In terms of personal training, there's nothing wrong with going up to somebody at the gym who seems like they're really in shape, who seems quite friendly, and just saying, hey, I know this is crazy, but, yeah, I really respect how much time, you put into the gym, and I really respect how disciplined you are. This is something where I'm doing, a weight loss challenge. I'm really trying to learn the basics of all this stuff in terms of lifting weights and, getting more proactive in terms of, let's say, doing something like high intensity interval training. I don't suppose it would be possible once or twice that we could work out together, because I could definitely use some tips and tricks. I know you're really busy. I don't want to get in your way or anything, but I'd really appreciate it, right? You would be shocked how open people are to that. This has happened to me several times where people have come up and said that to me when I'm, really in peak fitness. And it's a pleasure to be able to do that, because I get it. I love seeing people in the gym who are not in shape, because that was me, and it's been me several times. You guys know as well as I do, if you happen to be a larger individual, like I've been the majority of my life, and I can tell you that you're treated like a piece of furniture. You are treated like an inconvenience to human beings. And people act like you're not there. And if you are there, again, they act like you're a second-class citizen, right? And if you've been big ever, or if you are big now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And that ish is brutal. And I can tell you, in terms of losing weight, it's always funny because, my self-esteem in my early 20s was not, well, actually, in my early 20s was phenomenal. And then all of a sudden I gained a bunch of weight, and I was in grad school and had chronic stress and ulcers and stuff because of that, walking to grad school. And during grad school, I gained a very significant amount of weight. It was the first time in my life I had gained a huge amount of weight in a short period of time, and it was because of grad school. Like, that's what it was from, right? And so because of that, that was the first time I had to lose a significant amount of weight. Had to figure out what would work for me, right? What ended up working for me, what I found, was doing a low-carb diet. That was for me, right? Again, I'm not going to tell you guys that I recommend keto or paleo or carnivore diet or zone or Atkins or whatever. I'm not going to tell you those things. People do things like Noom and Weight Watchers and this stuff. I think that's great. It's really whatever works for you. So I'm going to tell you what works for me. Again, I'm not endorsing this. I'm not a nutritionist. I have no qualifications to be able to tell you guys about this. So this is purely conjecture, just letting you guys know it works for me. So there are 4 ways that you burn calories, that your body burns calories. The first one is your basal metabolic rate, your BMR, right? So go to Google, type in BMR calculator, right? There's a bajillion of them, right? Basically, they'll take your age, your height, whether you're a man or a woman, all these sorts of things, right? They'll take all of that. And they're basically, it's going to spit out a number, and that is the number approximately, because there's all these different formulae or whatever that can be used to be able to calculate BMR. But essentially what it is it is the raw number of calories that your body burns if you literally just laid in bed, and that was it the entire day, all right? And didn't do anything else, right? That would be how many calories your body needs to be able to survive, to keep your heart beating, to keep your, body temperature regulated and so forth, okay? So that's number one. So find that number out, write that number down, right? The second one is the number of calories that you burn through intentional exercise, right? So what I recommend doing is that for a minimum of 1 week, you gotta have some kind of a fitness tracker. You can have, what do they call, like Jawbones, Fitbits. I've got the Apple Watch. I love the Apple Watch. If you've got an Apple Watch, or you have a way of getting an Apple Watch, or you got a birthday coming up and somebody's asking you, what should I get you? And you can get an Apple Watch, I swear to God, this thing is a total game changer, right? So essentially here on the Apple Watch, right, this is the watch face, that I like to use. It looks like this. As you can tell, today's been a high calorie burn day, okay? So basically, see, this is all backwards. There's 4 different numbers here, right? This is just the time. The second piece is how many calories have been burnt. Now that's being burnt through a combination of 2 things, which is intentional exercise and also something, the acronym for which is NEAT. We're going to talk about that in a second, okay? The third number, which is in green, is how many minutes you have exercised intentionally that day. And finally, it is out of however many hours in the day that it perceives that you're awake and you're wearing the watch. You got to stand up at least once an hour, right? So basically, what you can do is kind of set a caloric burn goal right, for the day if you wanted to. And you can do all of this. There's an app on your phone for the watch, and you can put in how much you weigh. You can put in all these different characteristics, like health characteristics about you. That's going to sync with the phone, if you got an iPhone. That's going to sync with the phone and, with the watch. And the thing is a freaking game changer, right? And so let's put it this way. If you weigh 100 pounds versus 200 pounds and you go for a run, right, obviously you're going to burn a lot more calories if you weigh 200 pounds. And so the watch and the app that syncs with it are going to be able to calculate that for you, okay, which is cool. It's going to track your heartbeat, all these sorts of things. Now, the neat thing on this is that basically there is also a fitness button that if I click on it is going to give me a variety of different options. Let me take this off again, right? A variety of different options. This is like me on the elliptical. This is me going for, I know you guys can't see, like an indoor run, weightlifting, an outdoor walk, all these things, okay? So you can select what specific kind of exercise you're doing. So I do a lot of treadmill, I do a lot of ellipticals, like aerobic exercise. I do high-intensity interval training classes every now and again, but really I'm a treadmill elliptical guy. And then I work out with a personal trainer 2 times a week. So that is how I burn calories. I try to burn a minimum of 1,500 calories a day. I thought that would be freaking impossible. I'm just telling you. I thought that's like an impossible number. When my trainer told me to shoot for that deficit, I'm like, you're out of your actual mind, right? I don't know how I can do that, right? Now, of course, it's possible. Let's say that you burn 1,200 calories a day, and you need 300 more in your caloric deficit, right? Because at the end of the day, I am a big believer in calories in, calories out. You know, again, we can be here all day arguing about, arguing about caloric burn and all, guys, but let's just say calories in, calories out. You need to burn, right, have a caloric deficit of 3,500 calories approximately in order to burn 1 pound of body fat, okay? That's the idea here. Have enough protein to be able to conserve your muscle at the same time. Just try to significantly reduce it. Don't just, guys, no, like, yes, I drink soda. I drink diet soda. It's not good for me. Frankly, it tricks the brain to think you're having actual sugar, and that messes everything up, right? If you can ever have something like stevia, that's going to be a lot better than if you have something like aspartame, which is what this garbage has, right? But it's you can't cut out everything, right? So, like, I cut out, cookies and chips and anything with processed sugars, anything with refined carbohydrates, completely gone. Right? And essentially, it's something where you need to track all of your calories, right? So what I do, literally on these pieces of paper here and all, right? What I do, right, is I literally, before I eat anything, right, I write down how many calories are in it. Now, that's hard. You may need to buy a food scale. You can get them on Amazon for $15. Will be some of the best money you've ever spent, $15, right? Trying to eat salads and veggies. I hate vegetables. A lot of you probably hate vegetables too. Why? Because I can't prepare them. Best cook I know is Daria. Daria's a freaking ridiculous cook. I mean, ridiculously good cook. She can cook like anything. It's phenomenal. And she doesn't even need recipes. It's insane. She's really good. And so it's one of the reasons I'm looking forward to Spain is because Daria says she's going to cook. And I'm like, woo! I'm a big fan of her cooking. So what happens is that in terms of how much you eat, remember that a lot of things that maybe they seem small, so it's just like, you can have like a head of lettuce, or you can have like, a bag of M&Ms, and the bag of M&Ms, when you take them out, it may look like, this many M&Ms. It's still more calories, right? And it's kind of wasted calories because it doesn't really have any nutritional benefits for you. Keep in mind that, the job of people, especially if you're eating out, I don't recommend eating out at all. Why? Because people's jobs is to be able to make you come back. It's not necessarily to keep you healthy, especially if it's not a place that's like a salad place, or it's not a place that's like a vegan place, or whatever it is. Their job, again, is to keep you coming back and to make the food as delicious as possible. There, of course, are some amazing places that specialize in healthy food, but the overwhelming preponderance of them don't focus on that. And if they have healthy options, usually, they're still mucking around somewhere. So I don't recommend going out and, buying some, or going out and eating somewhere where you don't know what's in the food, right? You can buy things from the store in terms of raw, organic ingredients. That's never a bad thing. For me, I do not have the time to cook. I wish that I did. I could eat so much healthier and more organic if I did, but I don't have the time to do that. And so because of that, for me, what makes sense is to be able to eat as healthy as I reasonably can, to be able to have, Daria came up with a great idea, which is, when I'm still at the gym, I'll like order a salad to be delivered to me at home from like this Uber Eats app here in the US, right? So like in Ukraine, they have Glovo, and in Israel, they have a different app, right? Whatever it is. Mexico, they have a different app. Grubhub, there's a million of these things. But basically, I order it there. By the time that I get home, maybe within 15 minutes, I go shower, and then the salad's out front, right? It saves me the prep time. It's too expensive, but it saves me the prep time, and this way I don't have to think about it, right? Which isn't a bad thing. So in any case, that basically is what I'm talking about here, is writing down your calories, knowing what you're taking in, and trying to be able to make that food as healthy as possible. No refined sugars. Again, I'm a low carb guy. Why? Because since I've been quite large in the past, what ends up happening is that it messes with your amygdala. Why? Because the amygdala has a crazy number, like the density is huge, of insulin receptors. So if it's something where for you, like you have a lot of like mood spikes when you're eating sugar, like you're eating cake or something, and then you crash afterwards and you're angry and you're irritable and you feel sad or depressed or whatever it is, dude, you gotta just deal with the refined carbs and stuff then. Not everybody can eat everything and feel the same. I have friends of mine who can eat anything and like drop 50 pounds. You know what I mean? You know the people. My grandmother was like that. She was amazing. I mean, she just could lose weight just by, sitting there doing nothing. And it was like her body was running a marathon, Not all of us are so genetically blessed. I can tell you that I am not genetically blessed like that. So I'm with you if you're not genetically blessed like that either, okay? So mark everything down, all right? So there we have BMR and intentional exercise. Track that intentional exercise. Write that number down at the end of the day. If you do have something like an Apple Watch, though, right, it's not just going to calculate for you intentional exercise. It is also going to calculate for you that thing that we mentioned where the acronym is NEAT, and this is non-exercise activity thermogenesis, right? What the hell does that mean? If I stand up and I go to the bathroom, and then I come and walk back, if I stand up here and I go downstairs to be able to, make a salad, and then I come back upstairs, that's still going down down the stairs and up the stairs, right? It's not intentional exercise. It's not intentional exercise, right? And so that's the thing. It is literally non-exercise activity, and you're burning calories. That's thermogenesis, right? It's creating the burn, thermogenesis, right? And so that is the third way that you burn calories. And the good thing about this sucker is that so long as you have it on, you can be walking around all day, right? This will calculate that burn for you, right? So that's great, because then you've got how much your BMR is, how much your exercise and your intentional exercise and your NEAT is, and you can relay that against the caloric intake you've got, right? So that basically is going to set you up for being able to figure out what your caloric deficit is. But if you want to take it one step further, if you're really serious about this, to the point where you can track the macros of what you're eating, because there's three types of macros. There's proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. And of course, again, there's, healthier fats and unhealthier fats, and healthier carbs and unhealthier carbs, these sorts of things people talk about. Some people say that that's not a thing. We're not here to argue people, okay? Again, so many of you guys are going to know way more about this than me. All I am is a former fat kid who knows what he's doing now, right? For his own body, and has helped other people lose weight as well in the past, right? So some of you guys end up booking sessions with me, and this ends up becoming something that we talk a lot about, because you feel a little bit depressed, or you feel, you have some body image issues and these things. And as a teenager, I absolutely did. I get it. Right, so if you ever want to book a session to be able to talk about these things, I mean, please do consider doing that, because I'd love to be able to walk you through these things and really be there in your corner, especially once this weight loss challenge is over, if you're watching this a little bit later in the game, okay? So, but if you're really serious about it and you're tracking those macros, I just want you to know that the fourth way you burn calories is through this thing called, the acronym is TEF. It's the thermic effect of food. So the idea here is that if you eat 100 calories of fat, 100 calories of protein, and 100 calories of carbohydrates, right? What happens is that the body processes those things differently, right? It's a lot easier for the body to use fats than carbs, and a lot easier for the body to use carbs than it is to be able to use protein. And so because of that, right, your body needs to use calories to be able to break down whatever you've just put in your mouth. So if you eat 100 calories worth of fat, right, I believe, don't quote me on it when I say 4%, but let's just say around 5%. You'll get the idea, okay? About 5% or so of those calories of fat will be used to be able to actually by your body to be able to break that down, what you just put in your mouth, okay? So at the end of the day, about 95% of the calories from fat or whatever your body is going to actually use to be able to do whatever, right? If you need to burn it by going for a run or something, okay, great, it's going to use that. And if you don't end up going for a run or whatever, so it's excess calories over what you're burning in that day, it'll turn to fat. Right, so that's number one. The second is carbohydrates, where I'm don't quote me again. I'm pretty sure it's like 12 to 15%. Again, I could be wrong, but it's over double, right? And so what that means is that in this case, your body is using anywhere between 85 to 90% of those calories from the 100 calories of carbs that you ate. When it comes to protein, it's over 20%. Right, I think it's like 25%, I think. It's in the 20s, right? And the idea there, again, is that what that means is that 80% of the calories that you're consuming, right, that are from protein, right, do not end up getting transformed into body fat. Or do end up, well, have the possibility of getting transformed into body fat, right? The other 20% or so, right, is basically used by your body, like burnt off by your body to be able to process the protein. This is one of many reasons why high protein diets work, right? Again, this is why people say it all comes down to calories in versus calories out, okay? So if you're really into this, again, just type in thermic effect of food or whatever, you'll find the exact percentages. So if you do want to break things down, right, you literally can get really high specificity on this. I did that when I was in Israel. And I got super jacked in the time that I was there, lost a lot of body fat, gained a lot of muscle. I think I ended up gaining about like 7 or 8 pounds of muscle in 4 months, which those of you who know what I'm talking about, like that's a lot of muscle for 4 months, right? So in any case, that is what I've got for you guys for today, okay? So those are the 4 different ways to be able to burn calories. So you got your BMR, do an online calculator, write it down. Second one is intentional exercise, right? Get some sort of a fitness tracker. You can buy one for like 30 to 50 bucks now, right? Please just borrow one from a friend who's not using it because they're lazy, right? You can always do that. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3 is non-exercise activity, Thermogenesis. Again, something like an Apple Watch will help you out figuring that out. And then you've also got thermic effect of food if you want to be super anal. But regardless, at the end of the day, calories in, calories out, right? Track your calories, write it down, before you actually put anything into your mouth. That's what I recommend. Obviously, if you end up, especially if you're in the States, if you go to a restaurant, they should be able to tell you legally what calorically, right? What's the nutritional content of the food? Approximately how many calories are in what? My recommendation is if you do go out to a restaurant, I want you to go online first, and I want you to take a look at their menu and decide what you're going to order. And then don't even look at the menu while you're there. Don't even look at the menu, right? Just order what you already know is there. Done deal. Right? This way you're not going to get tempted. When you go to the grocery store, just stay away from the place, stay away from the bakery, stay away from the frozen food section if you're an ice cream person. Just stay the F away, right, from those places. It's not a matter of weakness, it's a matter of being disciplined. And you will not, I love that quote, right? You will not always be motivated, so you have to learn how to be disciplined, right? I am not motivated every day that I wake up or whatever to be able to go to the gym and then later on. So what I do is I wake up, I go to the gym. After the gym, I come home, I start work, right? I work until about 6 p.m. In the evening, and then I go for a walk, right, for about an hour, maybe a little over, and then I come back, and then I keep working, right, because I'm a workaholic, right? It is what it is. But luckily, I can work now, and I can actually have the discipline because the physical pain from my chronic pain and tension myositis syndrome is low enough that I can actually focus on this. And let me tell you, the first few days of like carb withdrawal and all, you're going to want to quit. It's so rough, guys, right? But this is why we're going to be here with each other. If you guys need encouragement, right, just, again, post in the comments below, right? Again, I read every single day. I end up reading my comments, right? At least once a day, right? So please do, check it. I will check it. So, and you guys can also check the videos to see if anybody's having a hard day. And then people can respond to that, person's comment just to know that they're not alone in doing this. Okay. If you know anybody else from any other channels who you'd like to encourage to kind of like be part of this, then you should invite them, because I would love them to be able to do this weight loss challenge as well, in terms of them making their own version of it. And again, they're more than welcome to refer people to this stream, but for their own subscribers, because this is a healthy thing. 77% of you guys on my poll, I mean, that's amazing, said that you would be interested in doing this. It would be an honor to do this with you. You guys know me. When I say I'm going to do something, I do it. Always. right? Like I take it real seriously, right? Otherwise I don't say it, right? Because your word has to mean something, right? If you say you're going to do something, then you don't do it. The only person you're hurting is yourself, right? Not because other people are going to think poorly, but it's because you're lying to yourself, right? Dostoevsky has a great quote about that. It's on my Instagram right now. You guys can go and read it if you want to check it out, right? So it's at Dr. Phoenix Singh, Dr. Phoenix Singh, right? Phoenix like the city, Phoenix like the bird. I always say Phoenix like the bird, not Felix like the cat. If anybody knows Felix the cat, I'm probably the oldest person here. Okay, so that would be my recommendation, guys, all right? But again, this upcoming Wednesday, or not this Wednesday, the following Wednesday, September 1st is when we're going to get started. I will aim to do a live stream at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, U.S., and we'll go from there. If you guys have any more questions, let me know, but just remember that the way to be able to enter is going to be on that video. Come give your starting weight in these things, write it down, right? Is this a self-accountability thing? Yes. Could you say that you started 200 pounds and in 4 weeks you lost 1,000,000 pounds? Yeah, you could say it, right? But again, your word has to mean something, right? So do yourself a favor, tell the truth. Let's do this thing together, okay? Looking forward to seeing you guys then. I appreciate you watching.